Guess who got banned from Victoria Beckham Beauty? I feel so seen. Now, there have been a lot of developments and I can't be asked putting makeup on. You'll live, but I accept absolutely no responsibility for your necessary therapy afterwards. Now, to remind you, on September the 24th, she released part of her Coco collection. Go watch my other video if you don't know. I ordered the mascara and compact with refill as seen here. Now, normally Victoria Beckham Beauty's shipping takes about a week, a little bit more. So it sat in my tracking for about 4 weeks without moving in Australia. And I waited and I waited and I waited. And eventually I was like, this isn't coming. So I lodged a dispute with PayPal. It took them a little while, but PayPal eventually found that Victoria Beckham Beauty actually didn't provide adequate tracking information. So I was granted a full refund on Monday. And look what arrived today. It's Friday. Now I'm going to include all of this in one shot. So I'm sorry if it's boring, but it's going to prove everything that I'm about to talk about in this video. If I'm wrong, which I sincerely hope that I am, I'm still going to include it in the video. This isn't about ego. This is about fixing what is wrong. Now, if you've ordered from Victoria Beckham Beauty in the past, especially in iWardrobe, you know that it's extremely heavy in the box, or in general, and you can especially feel them moving around the box. When I was handed this box, which is a rarity for Victoria Beckham Beauty, I noticed it was extremely light, and that feeling was familiar. I think they've once again forgotten to include the compact. So as you can see, the box is intact, and all I've done is remove the identifying stickers. It is the internet after all. And now I'm going to and now we are, how do I, oh, I got you upside down? I've got it upside down. Boom. Okay. Wrapped as it always is. More Vicky Bean sticker. Okay, we're off to a good start repackaging. Let's not forget that, let's see what I actually packed. Let's not forget, I ordered a mascara, a refill, and a compact. Again, look, I'll put it on the screen. 1, 2 products. This is light. This is the eyeshadow. So, just to show you the difference, and to be fair, I'm going to keep it wrapped up so you can hear. So, if you shake it, you can hear. But then, with a compact, can you hear the difference? You can certainly feel it. That's fucking frustrating, but just proves my point. Stay fucking tuned. Well, I guess we're back to the story. Now, I'll start this off by saying I'll focus only on myself. I know a number of people who've experienced similar situations, and I don't want them to befall the same pathetic outcome that I have. I must also emphasize that if a brand is making claims and charging for them, I will take you to task. Now, all I wanted was a luxury brand experience, and to be fair, sometimes I did get it, as seen from my little unboxing, if everything was in there. But then suddenly and very aggressively, things began to change. I started ordering from Victoria Beckham Beauty about 2.5 years ago. Look, they weren't the best products out there, but they did offer a different point of view in an oversaturated market, which really made them a pleasure to use. And they always came in tones that looked fantastic on me. I mean, it makes sense. Victoria Beckham designs for herself, and her and I have very similar coloring. I could get a complete look that was very polished quickly for the most part, and they have fantastic usability for an artist like me. Now, I noticed early on that products were arriving damaged. My first few orders were lid lusters, and these are an incredibly soft formula. It said somewhere on the side or somewhere that they may need to be repressed upon arrival. Not a big deal. With a lot of brands that have softer formulas in pots, you often have to do that. What I did find odd was that several months later, I was gifted the remaining shades of the lid lusters by a friend, and what I'd noticed was the product and the packaging wasn't damaged, and oddly, and this is why it stood out, the lids were securely fastened. Now, it's worth noting that having to repress a soft shadow in a pot with its little lid tool will have absolutely no effect on the usability and finish, unlike when you have to repress and reset, say, a palette with alcohol, which can really drastically affect the product. Now, as the months passed, I noticed a large percentage of my orders were arriving damaged, say 40-45%. At first, the boxes were arriving intact and only the products themselves were damaged. I made a few online returns due to the damaged products and, as you have now seen, the often missing products. After the frequency in which it was occurring, I knew I was going to be blamed for falsifying it, as if I stood objectively away from the situation, it looked totally fake. So I stopped lodging returns. This is when I started a long and ongoing dialogue with the brand and began informing them of what was continually happening as it happened. I should mention that the online returns process is very flawed, often not requiring evidence of what's going on, which I would have happily provided. They'd tell you to keep the products or donate them and then issue you a voucher to the same cost of your purchase. purchase. See my concern? With that being said, these occurrences were very much happening, and I'm not about to help Victoria Beckham claw her way out of her massive debt simply because she can't offer a service which all other makeup brands seldom struggle with: delivery. It's also worth noting that given how freely they hand out vouchers, and how often they have to replace products due to the inescapable errors on their end, especially highlighted with the very poor complexion tool, these products must be very cheap to manufacture, otherwise the business would have crumbled years ago, and really highlights the discrepancy between quality, service, and cost. Now I know this is going to sound totally insane, but over time it really did start to feel like a personal attack, especially when comparing it to the experiences of others. And with all of the things that I was ordering online, it only happened with Victoria Beckham Beauty, which made me think that this wasn't just a delivery partner issue. At first I tried to disguise myself by creating different emails, thinking that maybe there was an association with mine and that maybe they would bypass it through the order. But as orders continued to arrive with boxes intact and products missing or damaged, I thought a bit further, and there are a few points that need to be discussed as massive failures from within the brand. The discount code for your first purchase after you become a member. Well, you only ever got your code emailed to you after you made your first purchase, which would then make your next purchase where you could use the code invalid because it was no longer your first purchase. There used to be a loophole where it was somewhere on the website, if you saw it, you can get it that way. But is that even a loophole? So after this, I realized I could use these discount codes emailed to me with a new email in the hopes that I get all my products and get them intact. I kind of thought of it as being like the Honey app, you know, where you get discounts on orders and stuff. I really saw this as a form of financial protection and also saw it as a way of recouping some of my losses. I was constantly losing out on a large percentage of or of complete products. I mean, sure, I wanted the luxury experience, and I did get that in part, with half of my orders arriving mostly fine. I mean, ultimately, who cares if the box arrives a little bit banged up? But it really did seem personal, as it wasn't happening to anyone else that I knew. Cut to me sharing things on social media and learning that it's happening to a lot of people. And it actually developed to where boxes were arriving open. It's worth noting that when the boxes arrived open, in this case, the products were in pristine condition, which did not help my fears of tampering, and especially because Victoria Beckham Beauty does not have protective seals on her products, which in her defense, I assume is due to sustainability. Now, I will mention that I did catch a few of the delivery partners actively throwing my parcels directly onto the concrete or down my walkway, and I emailed Victoria Beckham Beauty immediately, not because of me, but because I didn't want it to happen to anyone else. Now, in regards to communication, the brand has, or had, an excellent representative called Milka. She was honestly fantastic. She helped and tried to assist with everything going on with complete grace and understanding. I should also mention I've never had issues with a brand before, let alone to this level, and a brand that I'm a fan of, and even suggested that I contact the delivery partner directly. I planned on following her advice and asked for the specific details of the delivery partner, as they allegedly performed an investigation on the inside. So I waited and waited and waited and waited, and I heard nothing. I chased up the details sometime later, as I wanted this to end and had no plans of abandoning the brand, and was still stupidly giving them the benefit of the doubt. Soon after this, Milka disappeared. Ooh, ominous. Another damaged order later, which is what I showed you in my other video, and who replaced her was a horrific sales representative called Joelle. This condescending, rude, and aggressive representative, who is a published and admitted liar, mind you, is the person who made false claims of the brand sending me replacements that I made mention of in the first video addressing this. It should be noted that I not once asked or expected a replacement or a refund, and simply that I wanted this entire situation rectified, especially for the price that I was paying. And as I said, I stopped making returns because I didn't want it to seem like I was scamming the brand. Everything was easily explained, as I always maintained a very open dialogue with Victoria Beckham Beauty. I even told them I used multiple emails. And I should mention that they were not subtle. I often made up ridiculous names, naming them after products I had just launched, etc. Like, there was no secrets. I mean, I post everything online. Come on, come on. And in one of my last correspondence with Joelle, I shared my concerns as to how this wasn't a coincidence due to the frequency and level in which it was happening. And lastly, why would I try to exploit a brand that I openly have an affection for, put my face to, and want to have a good relationship with? Not to mention advertise daily in my personal life. It makes no sense. I just want to be treated as a semi-valued customer. You'll also see here that I was ordering on days which had sales on. These were codes offered to everyone, and the account that Joelle was trying to accuse of being a false one, which in fact very much wasn't. This was the one that I mentioned should have been tier 2, and the one that I thought I had to abandon due to what was occurring. Now, it's really important to mention that due to my obvious affection with the brand, whenever anyone wanted to get me a gift, whether it be from here or overseas, they would order it themselves, but put in my name and my address so that I could get the gift. Another instance of me being accused of being fake. Now, it's no secret that I love Victoria Beckham, and I enjoy using the products for the most part. But I had to consider something, and with the contact that people have made with me in regards to the brand, and with the reviews that I've read, I'm even more firmly stood within my beliefs. This brand costs a lot of money. This brand should not cost a lot of money. I do enjoy using the products, but I'm a trained makeup artist. I'm also not trying to climb up the ass of the brand, as realistically, they wouldn't send me anything and I'm not trying to get them to. I feel I have a duty as someone who knows what they're talking about to share with your average consumer what they may not know, what they may not be aware of, or what they would have considered, etc. Especially as the brand was designed to recoup the losses from her fashion brand, something that we always knew but was once again confirmed within the documentary. And I've said it before, but I'm also sick of influencers just straight up lying. Now, of course, some people may love products. Everyone has different wants and needs. But when it comes to a point where it's a near verbatim script, we do have something to worry about. As a professional actor and a very small content creator, I can tell you right now that brands 100% do hire actors to do their testimonials, etc. I'll tell you something else. 99% of those testimonials that you see are hired actors. Now, I implore you as a consumer to watch every positive review and to read every positive critique. But in doing so, look for the near identical wording and phrasing. Now, obviously, some of the positive reviews are genuine. I mean, as I said, I love most of the products and the brand very much is my go-to these days. I myself have only left positive reviews on the brand's website, but only for products that really truly deserved it. Now, it doesn't erase the fact that there appears to be a very real and very common thread that really appears to be scripted. Now, when finding honest reviews, they often speak of the same issues that the brand hasn't rectified, namely around components, formulation issues, and inconsistencies, or with products that simply don't perform, and namely in those inconsistencies being in the colorways within the same product. What I learned recently that is quite shocking is that the brand does not deliver on their tier promises at all, going as far as to charge for complimentary samples offered to these high-paying members. Now, was I wrong? I saw it as a means to protect myself from the constant losses I was making from a brand that I now see really doesn't care about resolving this very serious issue and was just humoring me and disregarding me, despite the literal thousands of dollars I've spent on the brand, not to mention my pretty unbridled dedication towards it. As I look back, going down the more than justified returns portal, which would have rightly seen me get my money back instead of the 10% refunds I was occasionally given, the brand was actually never making a loss, yet I consistently was. Yes, I could have stopped purchasing from them. But as I said, I had a constant dialogue with the brand and I stupidly believed that there was going to be some resolution on the horizon. I have a clear interest in the brand, but also a lot of knowledge, which isn't going to be removed due to my fandom around Victoria. She's also not a makeup artist, so her views on what are high quality will also widely differ. What I have learned from all of this, and from being on social media, and from the trust that people have afforded me, is that the brand has no desire to improve anything and rather simply band-aid it with partial refunds or ban people. An interesting choice given the thousands they will inevitably lose if they go down this path, as I'm not the only one. You clearly need a better team, Vicky B. That being said, Victoria Beckham Beauty just launched at Mecca! So no more delivery issues, and I'm happy to pay full price, baby. The honest reviews will not stop.